The Almost Perfect Podcast.
Welcome to the Almost Perfect Podcast, a celebration of fuck-ups, failures, and falling flat on your face. This is a podcast that believes you can learn from experience, but that experience doesn't have to be your own. Hi, I'm Bob Perfect, and I'm a functional fuck-up. Let's learn from somebody else's mistakes. And today we're learning from Ross Charles. Now, Ross Charles is a musician, a singer in particular, who you've probably seen on your TV stations lately, as he was in The Voice South Africa. Before that, he was in a band called Stone Palace, who you might know them if you were in the Durban music scene. Really good band, and they're all kind of still together behind Ross as a solo act now. We get into that in the podcast, and we get into The Voice, although it's going to sound a little weird, because this podcast was done about 2 months ago. Now, it's coming out now because, I am sick. I don't know if you can hear that. You probably can't tell that I am under the weather. I've been man down for like the last 5 days. It has really sucked. And so I didn't get to do a new interview this week. But I've had this one in the can for quite a while. Because when Ross and I had the conversation, it was straight after basically he had qualified for the competition basically. That he got 4 chairs turned around. All the judges were like, yo, we want you on our team. And like it was a really big deal. And it was a really cool thing. And so I got him in and we chatted. But then it turned out we couldn't release it because he had an NDA, and yeah, Mnet don't necessarily want, well, I don't know if it's Mnet, no, DSTV doesn't necessarily, want that kind of promo coming out at that time. But now that Ross is out of the competition, unfortunately, he just missed out on top 8 recently. It does mean that I can now post this, so unfortunate timing for Ross and kind of fortunate timing for the rest of us right now, in that we'll get to hear this cool conversation, because I do think it's a really great conversation. We chatted for like over an hour and a half. You hear about an hour and a half of the conversation, and we just discuss, what it's really like to be. Ross is one of those people who wanted to be a musician his whole life, but only really started pursuing it a bit later. Although he was in the Drakensberg boys choir for a little bit when he was younger, so he's always had the talent, and he does have the talent. He's got a phenomenal voice. I remember seeing him for the first time, just going, holy shit, this dude can fucking sing. And so I'm glad we finally got to have a conversation, because he's also someone who enjoys opinions online, and I see he can be a little salty with the industry at times, because he wants to do this thing professionally, and it's fucking hard to be a professional musician in Durban and in South Africa in general. But hopefully now the competition will help him, move ahead and, get where he wants to be in his career. So this is it's a pretty long conversation. It's a really fun one, just about music, man. Lots and lots of different things about music, about being a musician, about other bands, about criticism. Man, it's a really, as I said, it's an hour and a half conversation, so it's pretty hard to break it down in like 2 minutes for you now. So that's coming up in just a second. It is the Almost Perfect Podcast with Ross Charles, and like I said, I am Bob Perfect. If you're listening to this for the first time, thank you very much. There are about 35 other episodes now, something like that, in the bank, with a whole host of different kinds of creative South Africans. The goal of this podcast is essentially to figure out how different people, get to where they are, and, how they make it. I'm putting that in inverted commas, but attain some relative success, whether that's to help you yourself figure out a path forward in life, or, just to, let you know that there's other people like you. Like if you're a creative and you're struggling through it, or, you're breaking through it, it's cool to see that there's other people who share your thoughts and opinions, or who are doing it differently. So that's kind of the whole concept of this. I chat to different people who I find really interesting in the scene, in the creative scene in South Africa, mostly in Durban, because I am a Durbanite and I feel we don't get enough credit and we don't get put on the map enough. So that's the vibe with this podcast. And I normally don't actually tell people much about myself or what I'm doing in the beginning here, but I figure I should start doing that. So at the moment, I'm actually working on the Heat City Comedy Festival. That's going to be coming up from the 30th of July to the 4th of August. We're doing it at 5 different venues. We'll be announcing that soon, but I would appreciate it if you go and check out on Facebook and on Twitter. So Twitter, it's at Heat City, and on Facebook, it's the Heat City Comedy Festival. I'd love it if you like the page and clicked attending to the event. Even if you don't come to the event, just in the moment, I need to try and get those numbers up, obviously, to try and, get this festival out there. It's something I've been working on. This is my 3rd year putting it together now. it is mostly just myself doing it. Like everything you're going to see from this festival is pretty much because of me putting it all together. Obviously, there's a lot of comedians. There's nearly 40 comedians who are coming to join us, and it is a team effort, but I'm kind of the captain, and I do need a little bit of help, so I'd really appreciate it if you go and like it, and then come to the festival, man. It's going to be really fun. We're using sick venues that support comedy in Durban. I've managed to secure a theater that I enjoy and I've really wanted to perform at, and I guess I can tell you I'm going to be performing my second one-man show, The End of the World, on the 4th of August at 8 p.m. It's going to be at that theater. I can't tell you just yet which theater it is, but that's the vibe. So I would really appreciate it if you come and watch me do some stand-up comedy, and especially some stand-up comedy about how the world is going to end. Nice light conversation, nice chilled topic, but it is one of my favorite things to think about, which once again sounds morbid, but I mean, one of my favorite things to think about before that was dying. So everyone dying versus just myself dying. I think, I don't know, I'm moving on a little bit, I'm not being so self-involved and instead sharing my morbidness with the world. So you can come check that out. That's going to be on the 4th of August at the Heat City Comedy Festival. And I'd really appreciate seeing some of you there. And if you enjoy this podcast, well, if you've listened to it before, you know what I'm about to say. And if you haven't listened to it before, well, guess what? You can like us on Facebook at the Almost Perfect Podcast. You can also follow us on Twitter at almost_podcast. Yes, almost_podcast. You can also follow me on Instagram at almostperfectbob. And if you want to email me, if you've got any questions, if you've got any comments, if you've got any tips, tricks, anything that you want to share with me about this podcast, please hit me up at I was going to give you the Heat City Comedy Festival. I think I did that on a previous podcast as well, at almostperfectpod@gmail.com. You can hit me up there, or you can just do what everyone else does and hit me up on Instagram. My Instagram DMs have been popping lately, and thank you for all the kind words. I really appreciate it. I mean, this podcast doesn't get tons of listens. We average about 120 to 200 per episode, which is awesome. I mean, I love it, but you don't expect it to have the effect that maybe it does on a personal level with people. And a lot of people have, said to me directly that, hey, this podcast really has helped me. And that fucking just means so much to me. So thank you to everyone who's, done that, who's hit me up and let me know that this isn't a waste of my time. So I really appreciate that. And I also want to say shout outs to our latest patron, Martin Barrios. He has joined up on patreon.com/almostperfect. It's a place you can go if you want to subscribe to the podcast and add a little bit of cash into my pocket so I can make it a bit better. One of the things I've done already with the money that people have been subscribing with is bought some mic stands, so I don't have to hold the mics and we don't have weird vibes. And I'm going to use some of the money now to repair one of my mics, because if you listened to last week's podcast, you would know that one of my microphones is unfortunately not working. But thanks to you, the patrons, I keep wanting to say the Patreons, but thanks to the patrons on Patreon, I am able to hopefully get that fixed. So yeah, thank you very much so far. I'm sorry for all the promo there, but I'm doing a lot of stuff, and I would appreciate the support, and I really do appreciate the support that I've received already. I'm always just in awe, man. So thank you so much for everything, and I'm sorry for making so much of this intro about myself, because this is a really fun podcast, and the next hour and a half are going to be all about Ross Charles. Enjoy. You must be feeling good about yourself right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited, pretty confident, and happy to be finally out there and and putting my name out where I'd like it to be.
Yeah, so I'm going to introduce you beforehand. I'm going to explain why you're feeling good about yourself, but you have got through the blind auditions of The Voice.
Yeah, I traveled up to Joburg, I sang my song, I did little things you got to do, and I got 4 chairs and I'm through.
Yeah, so what do you mean you got 4 chairs? What is that?
So basically, if you haven't watched the show, the format is you come out and the judges aren't facing you. You've just got a crowd in front of you, and as you sing, they all have an option to hit a button, turn their chair around, and then...
Why do they do that, though?
So, they've obviously got to pick teams. If that's what you mean by why do they do that. Yeah. So, once they've turned, they basically have an option to fight for you to be on their team. Every judge is trying to compile a team that they believe is the strongest in order to win the contest. So, basically, they're all trying to,
find the best singers.
Yeah, they're trying to find the best singers, and If you get more than one chair, that's a pretty good compliment.
And you got everyone turning
I got
around.
everyone, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. Like, and even when you got the first chair, I saw that little smirk on your face. Like, when you got Lyra and you had Francois van Cook, because you, I assume, wanted to work with Lyra. That was your plan going in.
Yeah, I went there with Lyra as the number one choice. I didn't actually really think much further than that.
And if she hadn't turned around and everyone else had, how would you feel and what would you have done?
I mean, I would have felt good because, the main goal is to be on the show. I definitely would have gone with Ricky. I don't know. He's like the new gun on the show and he's vibrant, man. He's got like this great energy to him. So,
but I mean, I don't think he would be able to teach you that much vocally. But he would be able to teach you other things. Yeah, I mean, I think the main goal for me in the show is to learn the other elements of the industry that I think being a small town musician lacks. So, that guy, his business acumen is absolutely fantastic. And I mean, he came from Durban, so...
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, that being said, all of them really have done so much for themselves in the industry. So.
I don't know the one judge, the one woman...
Rihanna.
Yes, I don't know. She's in the Afrikaans market.
Yeah, so her and her sister both are like Afrikaans sweethearts.
Okay.
So she's an amazing singer.
And I mean, she seemed to have the... she was the judgiest of the judges because she was the last one to turn around.
Yeah, definitely. I think she was the one that everyone had to work for the most. I think her and Lyra definitely are two of the most seasoned. Although, I mean, they've all been around for so long. But I think you had to really work for Rihanna.
Okay. And Francois van Cook, does he have any significance in your life? I mean, I know your real surname, so I figured maybe you would have grown up with his music, or maybe not.
So Francois, funny enough, actually, in my last year of studying music, I did a paper on the history of Afrikaans rock, and basically, if you Google Afrikaans rock, 95% of what comes up is either Fok of Polisiekar or Francois.
Yeah.
So I actually know a lot about the dude, and is someone that I've looked up to for so long in the industry. So being, on the same stage as him and getting to meet him backstage was amazing. Just the conversations we've had and stuff.
And also he was the first one to turn around for you. So
absolutely.
That must have felt pretty cool.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's why the smirk came out. I mean, I got Lyra and Francois, which were two, I'd say, of the most polar sides of...
Oh, definitely.
Of the show.
Both fantastic vocalists though, as well.
So I was really stoked at that point. And I mean, I'm actually the most bummed that I can't work with all of them as closely as I'd like to.
Yeah, but maybe down the road that would be something. Is there any point where they swap members of teams or anything like that? I don't know how the show works, so I can imagine that they might be able to steal people. I'm just thinking if you going to add drama to the show, that's something you could do.
So I know in previous seasons, I'm not sure what the format for this season will be. Each judge has had, I think, 1 or 2 steal options.
Okay.
During the knockout round. So if you are eliminated in that process, a judge has an option to steal from you. I'm still waiting to see how they unveil this season. I believe there is going to be a big twist. So looking forward to see if that is a thing.
And what's the process now? So you've got through the blind auditions. Everyone else has got through blind auditions. Have you been watching? Have you been seeing your competition? And what's your approach here? Because this isn't a competition. Are you thinking about it competitively, or are you just thinking about what you can get out of this personally?
Absolutely. If you know me, I am an incredibly competitive human being. Sometimes possibly a bit too competitive. So I have definitely been watching. And, while watching, there's obviously a few guys that you see as the main competitors. And I think the trick is not to get in your head about it too much. Everybody's there because they bring their own unique flair. So I'm not so much watching as an idea to change what I have going forward. I've definitely got a strategy that I'm going to stick by, but it's good to see, who's in the mix and who you're competing with.
And what's is your unique flair?
I think, it's such a hard thing to say because it's almost, you become a bit arrogant and egotistical, which I guess
how you just, before you say it, you're just letting everyone know, I don't want to say this, but anyway,
Absolutely. I guess range for me is probably my strongest suit.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, so I can go from quite low to quite high, and I guess I'm quite a loud human being on a normal day, so I've got a bit of power in the diaphragm, so I'd say that's kind of where I would say I would stand out, and also maybe the variety of music that I can do. I'm not just a single genre artist.
Well, do you want to elaborate on that? Because you're currently studying at UKZN at the moment, right? or you just finished? Or
I've just finished at a different college. I wasn't actually at UKZN.
You went one of the...
No.
Okay, which college are you at?
I was at COPA.
Oh, I don't even know COPA.
It's the
Tell me
Campus of
about it.
Performing Arts.
I just assume everyone studying music in Durban is doing it there.
And you'd be mostly correct. The UKZN format is jazz. And
Yeah.
I think looking back, after, studying, I would have loved to. And I would probably, if I had the chance to go study jazz right now, I would.
Yeah, because I also assume that because we were discussing before this podcast, you were mentioning like you want to go into a more jazzy route.
Absolutely. So COPA, the idea behind it is it's a contemporary music college.
Awesome.
So
you learn a lot of different things.
So you're touching on elements of all the genres, which is probably
and I can imagine a lot of production in that as well. Or?
So I started with vocals. I did that for 2 years, and then I moved into sound engineering. And then I've just completed my honors in that now. So try to branch out as much as I could and learn the behind the scenes part of the industry, because I think as a singer, studying production has probably been the greatest choice I've made, because you start to see how compiling music really comes into play.
What do you mean by that?
So when you're writing a song, obviously, there's ways to make songs interesting. And when you listen to the more, genre bending or iconic music that's come about, they've always brought in elements within the arrangements of the tracks that are not just musical. They're little moments that happen, little events that kind of bring you to a theme or paint a picture. And you don't think about that before you do production. Once you started studying sound engineering, you can't stop hearing.
You start hearing
kind of
more
stuff.
of the song, like how it's all layered, how it's all put together, not just like. I mean, you've been in a band for a while though, so you've been making songs and.
Absolutely.
But now you feel like your even understanding of like making songs has obviously changed.
Oh, hugely. I mean, it's like anything. Once you see behind the veil, you start to realize that there's so much that we don't know and that we don't pick up on immediately as just normal listeners. So to see that and learn about that it's probably been the most mind-blowing thing I've ever experienced, and it's given me a huge appreciation for music.
What actually got you into music and making music? I mean, how long have you been singing for? I imagine it's quite a while, but I've only known you for probably the last 2 or 3 years. I remember seeing you performing at the beer hall in town.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I just came and shook your hand because I was just like, what the fuck? This voice is ridiculous. Like, I'd never heard you before that, and I was completely blown away. So,
well, thank you for that first.
Yeah.
I've been singing as far back as I think I know. When I was a kid, I think it was just something that I started doing just by habit and automatically. So I feel like one of those rugby dudes who someone's like, how long have you been playing rugby? They're like, my whole life. That's all I know how to do. If I break my knee tomorrow, I'll never know another day outside of that. So it's pretty much been my whole life. I pursued it a little bit. I went to the Drakensberg choir when I was in grade 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then shortly after left that and kind of put it on the shelf for a little while. And then a friend of mine taught me how to play guitar in matric, and I just rolled with it from there. But yeah, the band was probably one of the most eye-opening experiences for me.
So you were in a band called Stone Palace?
Yeah, Stone Palace. So we still are. Still got the same members around me. They're great guys, and I don't think, I could have asked for better guys. But yeah, we did that for about 2 years.
Yeah, fantastic band. I mean, I really enjoy this music that you guys created. Like, it was just, I get why you guys aren't currently doing the Stone Palace thing, because, I mean, you're doing the Ross Charles thing now. But, it was so nice to have a new fresh band on the scene that was actually pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Where because you get new bands all the time, in music scenes in general, and most of the time they're okay, and it takes them a while to get good. Whereas you guys came onto the scene and you had musicality, you had good songwriting, you had catchy stuff, and it all sounded good. So it was a part of me wants more out of Stone Palace. But now obviously with you being on The Voice and your brand, I guess, being slightly bigger, you guys are now still a band but doing Ross Charles.
Yeah, so we've amalgamated into the Ross Charles brand. I hate that word.
It's awkward as fuck.
As I consider myself a bit of a snobby purist. I spent my whole life trying to avoid the word brand or my brand identity, social media and stuff.
But now you're an adult and you understand that that's part of entertainment.
Yeah, I got to pay rent at the end of the day. I'd like to be able to put clothes on my body, but I've lost what you were asking. I've forgotten completely.
I was asking about with the band, you become
we've amalgamated.
Ross Charles now.
Yeah, so I've kept the same members. So Cam Lane on guitar, Reese Cook on bass, Buddy Love on drums, and we actually brought in James from
James
the
Chandler.
Dead Trends. Yeah.
And so some of those guys have worked together with
Yeah.
as the Dead Trends.
So
yeah.
we're just kind of like absorbing as many people. My goal ideally is to be within an 8-piece band by the end of the year.
Oh,
So I'd love to get some brass in, maybe trumpet and sax, and maybe another keyboardist or another guitarist. So like
I mean,
the
that's
goal.
a lot of expenses though. Like
It
each
is,
new member
absolutely.
you add is now going to just add to the costs of the band.
Absolutely. And I'm hoping that The Voice, the platform, will give me the freedom to book those kind of shows afterwards.
Because that must be the hard thing, I guess, at the moment is, I mean, you travel as a 2-piece pretty often because I can
Yeah.
imagine the fee is like $2,000. So you're like,
Yeah.
you can't have a 4-piece on that. Like,
Absolutely.
and so that's kind of why you entered The Voice, was so that more people could get to know who you are. And hopefully, I would assume, like, yeah, you get more bookings, your booking fee can go up because you've been doing this for a few years now as a professional musician all the time.
Yeah, full time.
Like people don't understand how hard that is in Durban to do, to be able to live off
Yeah.
of music.
It's a tough industry in the whole world. I'd say it's a tough industry in South Africa, and in Durban it's kind of two-sided. It's incredibly hard because there is so little, but it's also there's a very small group of guys doing it full time. And so once you infiltrate that, it does actually become a little bit easier to grab a hold of
I've
the
seen
market.
like Gavin Ferguson, James, like there's a bunch of names
Yeah.
that you see all the time, like all at all
Absolutely.
the different restaurants. So there's like a bit of a circuit for
Yeah.
musicians.
But there it is. It's mostly cover shows
Yeah.
at the moment. Yeah. So I'm hoping the platform of The Voice, I mean, it's an international platform. It's a nationally
And you've
huge
got like
platform.
45,000 views already on
Oh
your
yeah.
audition.
I mean, that's already way more than we've ever garnered from anything I've done before. So I'm hoping that afterwards it's going to give me the freedom to do a little bit more traveling, to put together, more interesting shows. You see these guys who are doing a lot, like you talk about Balwanster a lot.
Yeah.
He's a guy who's out there constantly bringing interesting projects. Raheem Kemet also, like, always trying to bring something that's different. They're not playing it safe. They're going out there and going, this is a concept that I'd like to execute, and they do it because they've spent time building something that allows them to do that. And I'm hoping that after The Voice, I have that platform to lock into the income that it requires to fund those kind of projects.
I mean, if you win The Voice, you could probably definitely do that. What do you actually get if you win? I'd have no
So
clue.
I also don't exactly have a clue. I just know that it's a very solid recording contract.
Okay, so that was
And-
it. You just entered because you're like, "Oh, so what if I win?"
Well, your whole life, if you're a singer, you'll know this. Your family and friends at
Tell you
every
to
single
enter.
bra will ask you, are you doing Idols? Are you doing The Voice? You should totally do The
South
Voice.
Africa's got talent. Like,
Yeah, and I always was kind of trying to reserve myself for that, and it's definitely something that's been in the back of my head, but
why
I've just
would
been
you reserve
waiting.
yourself from it?
I think for two reasons. One, I've been waiting to be mature enough as an artist, I think, because the show is more than just can you sing.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into it, and
You got to
a
be
lot
able
of
to
it-
perform.
You got to be able to perform. You have to be able
And
to.
that was one of the things that I think helped you get the audience on you. Like, your voice is great and like you sing really well. You've got great control of it, but you performed a lot better than a lot of the people like I've seen on The Voice. I have watched the show since
Obviously,
seeing you
yes.
on. But yeah, like that was the thing, was just seeing like because you've been performing for years now, I think you had an advantage over a lot of the other competitors who also maybe have performed, but they're doing it in more static rooms, like where people are
Absolutely,
sitting
yes.
down listening to them, whereas you're used to getting people dancing and
Yeah.
moving. So that was immediately apparent, like from your performance.
Yeah, and I really think that experience is the most vital part of the industry. And the guys that I've seen on The Voice this year that I would consider, I wouldn't say competition. To me, it's not a competition, but the guys that I look up to on the show, guys like Ian LaRue, who just come out there and just absolutely obliterate everything I've ever heard before. They have experience, It's these guys who are 26, 27, 28, and have been doing it for years, and they understand the nuances of the industry.
Although there was the one operatic, like younger woman.
Morgan,
Yeah.
she's amazing, and Yatu Craft and
I don't
Morgan.
think I heard Yatu.
Yatu is, he sang The Greatest Showman. I think he's on like
I don't think-
500,000 YouTube views.
I don't think I saw his audition, but
He's
damn.
amazing. I mean, he's the poster boy for 2019, basically. Like,
So-
you go check him out and
Okay.
you'll see.
So that's your competition there. You
Yeah.
have been sussing things out.
And
You
it's
do
funny
know.
enough, like the guys who I would consider my competition have over the show become my best friends there. So like, I think all of us kind of know that like we're competing with each other, but we have such a deep respect for what everyone else is doing, because no one's competing for the exact same sound, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're all doing slightly different things, and you are going to learn from each other
massively
throughout this experience. What have you actually done in this experience so far? Like, because I mean, it's still the blind auditions, but obviously, like everyone knows like who's gone. Like everyone in the show knows who's gone through already, or like, do the blind auditions? I mean, yeah, is there stuff going on behind the scenes whilst we're seeing stuff on TV?
So the blind auditions are technically in their last week. They've just finished now, and then we will all go back and do.
So after your blind auditions, that's what I'm trying to see. So you haven't done anything else now, like
no?
Because I was wondering, like, you know, because it gets shown on TV, and so I was wondering if whilst it's being shown on TV, you guys are actually doing like the next like segment.
So there's parts of the show that we have started working in towards. Obviously,
so
it's a massive production.
Yeah.
There's a massive production, and obviously they have to streamline certain of the processes. The blind auditions are completely as is. I mean, you get there, you go on. It's like right in the moment, and then after that, they slowly phase certain parts. And I mean, you get some interviews done. You start to discuss things like your wardrobe and your song selection, and you know there's little parts that go into it. But for the most part of it, we're all just like...
So now it's about to really start.
Yeah, it's going to start now. I think.
And do you have an idea of the process that's about to happen?
So the next round is going to be the knockouts.
Yeah.
I can't say too much about what's going to happen, but basically I believe that we're going from like 50 or something down to like half. So it's quite a massive cut.
How do you feel about that?
I'm feeling confident about it. You know, you have to. I think if you start to judge or doubt yourself, it shows when you go on stage. And I mean, I think a lot of people don't understand or couldn't understand how much goes behind the scenes. It's a very draining process, and it's hard on your mentality. You're away from home for a long time. You're under a lot of pressure. You're constantly surrounded by, you know, I think it was 100 people in the first selection that are just some of the best singers you've ever seen. So you have to keep that positivity up as soon as you let that in. You
probably saw some people not make it through that were really good.
Yeah. I mean, this might be controversial for me to say, but some of the greatest singers I've ever seen did not make it through the blind audition. You know, it comes down to something like their song choice might have been wrong, or they might have been trying to do too much or not trying to do enough. And it's crazy how there's little minute factors.
Because you've also only got those 3 to 4 minutes, you know, to impress those 4 people.
It's 90 seconds.
Oh, you
have 90 seconds.
Oh, I see. I didn't even like.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's
it
only
feels
90
like
seconds. They wouldn't show 3 or 4 minutes of the
exactly.
song on
It
TV.
feels like it's, you know, when you're up there and when you're watching, it feels like an hour. But yeah, it's not. You have 90 seconds to basically shape the future of your career.
No pressure at all.
Exactly.
How was the pressure when you got there? Like, what did it feel like just before you started singing?
I think that's what we were talking about earlier about experience. For me, I've been on stages with 4,000 people in the crowd. You know, I've been on stages where there's 10 people in the crowd, and you have to work so hard to get those 10 just to get in there. So for me, getting on a stage is actually the place where I feel the most like myself. And so, you know, that first moment when they hand you the mic and they say, you're up.
It's like, yeah, it's now, bro.
Your heart just drops right through your body, and it just starts
sink or swim,
thumping.
do or die. And I mean, did you even consider failure, or were you like, I'm going to make it?
I had no failure in my head. I went on there going, 4 cheers, this is what I'm getting. And I think that's the only way to really go for it.
No, dude, like, I mean, I think a lot of people aren't going to relate to that, people who are listening, but I do think that is a key to success. See, personally, like, I've got a bit of a different philosophy in that, like, so I play a lot of Magic the Gathering. And
absolutely.
When you play Magic, you lose a lot. Like,
yeah,
it's a part of the game. Like, it's literally built in. Even the best players in the world lose hundreds of games, like, all the time.
Absolutely.
So I don't feel like losing anymore.
Well, exactly.
Like, so that's the thing for me. It's not like that I'm confident that I'm going to win. It's that I don't care if I lose. And so that allows me to be a lot more confident in what I do. So like with stand-up comedy and that, you know, I've died a million times.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I've also succeeded a million times. And so both those things keep me going. Like, both those things are like, cool. Like, you know, because when you die again, like, you've done it before, it's okay.
It's nothing, yeah.
And also when you succeed again, it's like, cool, I am this good.
Yeah.
Like, you
so
know, but
affirmation.
then also, but at the same time, you don't want to be too into the, like there's a saying that we have, it's don't let the good gigs go to your head and don't let the bad ones go to your heart.
Yeah, you basically summed it up. I've failed it. I've been in the industry for 7 years now. I've played gigs where no one's clapped. I've played gigs where people have clapped when we said we're about to take a 15-minute break. Because in their minds, we were just ruining their entire night. We got booked to play in the Village on New Year's Eve.
Oh.
Right? Stone Palace, heavy rock band, 3 hours. There were like dancers on like podiums next to us who got off and they asked if they could leave their gig
because
early.
they didn't know how to dance.
They couldn't dance to us. We were playing in the Village. People wanted to hear doof, 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 doof.
No, like I don't understand who booked you. Like, and that must happen like a lot. Like being a relatively popular band in
Thousands
Durban
of times.
is because someone asks someone, "Hey, do you know a band?" And then your name comes up.
Absolutely.
And then they book you, and then you're nothing like what they want, and then it's now awkward.
I mean, it's also funny when there's a band called Stone Soup.
Oh yes, and they're
there's a
very
band
different to
called
you as well.
Stone Palace, and so we got booked for the Youth Day gig at Chowbella, where we played after A1.
And it was meant to be Stone Soup.
I don't know if it was meant to be Stone Soup, but like the lineup would suggest that it was more suitable for Stone Soup. And like I know them, I know Old School and those guys very well. And they would have killed it, but like we went on and absolutely killed that gig because we came on and we knew we'd failed before. And I was like, the band were like, dude,
what are we
they're
doing?
gonna hate us.
Yeah,
This is not the right. We're not the right music for this. And I said, we're gonna start with Earth, Wind, and Fire. And we're just going to play the funkiest shit we know how. And everybody had the best joy of their lives. And, like you're saying, that idea that you could fail starts to mean nothing after enough failings. So for me, I know, like for you saying that keeps you humble. For me, that I look at it the other way around. I go out there as hard as I can, and I just put it all on the line. And I go, what's the worst that's going to happen? I could fail right now. I don't even care if that's the case.
Yeah, I think I just need to keep myself humble because like I would be a monster if I didn't.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're preaching to the choir.
Oh man, yeah. So what are like some weird band experiences that you've had, like from being booked at the wrong like kind of place? Which is some of the worst like crowds you've had to play?
I hate to say the worst because
not the worst, but the weirdest experience.
The most surprising, I think. And Stone Palace, I think we're lucky in the sense, just to cover that first, that we always did have a good response, and you learn how to play to the crowd you're at. But we got booked for the opening of Gasoline Alley, which is a biker bar in Pinetown.
Yeah, like you guys are not the band I would book for that.
No, and well, this is what became weird, is we became like one of the staple bands for biker gigs.
Yeah. Like,
through this gig. So it turned out that we then played, several other bike rallies afterwards, but we arrived to this venue, and I mean, they've been great with supporting live music.
Yeah, Gasoline Alley, like, is weirdly enough, I mean, I haven't been there since it's become Gasoline Alley. Like, there was another venue beforehand, but I've been seeing they've been doing a lot of stuff.
They push it hard.
The aesthetics could use a little work.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But the crowd love it. So
yeah, but that's the thing. Like, it's cool to see an alternative scene in Durban again. Like,
yeah, it's great.
Between that and the Winston, like, and even Cool Runnings are like, now contributing a lot more.
Big time.
So there is, I'm seeing, there's more gigs, more bands. I mean,
absolutely.
lot of the bands I'm not enjoying, but I'm stoked that they're there. And that like people are coming to gigs and stuff.
I feel like you got a very particular taste for music, though.
That's insane because just go to Bubblegum Club, search Bob
Okay, that's true.
and just see all the different genres I listen to. I've got, like, I just hate cheesy shit.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right too. I mean, like, I feel like anybody who's, listened to enough music, when I watch a band personally, I want to sit there and go, what? Why did they do that? I would never in my life have thought to do that. And, that
things become very derivative is my issue.
Yeah.
Like, when I listen to like metal bands and rock bands, it's like, well, I've been listening to this music since I was like 12. So it's like been 20 years, and like, I've heard what you're doing.
You want someone to grab you and shake you by the collar and be like, this is something you've never seen before.
Yeah, or just they do it so fantastically well. Like bands like Black Math and Mouse are like two prime examples of rip-roaring, just fantastic shit. Like,
in your face.
Yeah, I will watch them all the time. Yeah. Like, because they're just so good at what they do, and it is out there and it is different to what I mean, I'm sure it's similar to other stuff, and some people can be like, they sound like this band or whatever, but to me, they don't. Like, I haven't heard like a lot of stuff that sounds like them.
I mean, the highlights of my younger years in the music industry when live was still going, Black Math. I went and watched every single show. I knew their entire set.
Yep.
Like after a little while, I probably still do. And I mean, they just like exactly that. The first time I saw them, I went, whoa. I've never been exposed to this before. I've never heard this kind of style. I mean, Cam is definitely, he's like one of those guys who thinks way off.
He's actually going to be the next guest on here.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, he thinks super to the left. He's like way out of the box. And you know.
And he's also just constantly working. And like, he's got such a different approach to this thing than almost anyone. Because he's just like literally always busy forever on everything.
Yeah.
And he's completely happy doing that.
And that pays off.
It does. Because, I mean... Yeah, he's got like 5 bands that he's in, so he's playing every single weekend. At least one of his projects is playing in some city in this country, and he's doing graphic design throughout the week as well. So but he's also studying, I think, or maybe just finished studying.
That stuff forces growth.
Yeah.
You know, you grow by being pushed. You grow by working with artists you never thought you'd work with before. You grow by diving into a genre that you've never performed and just immersing yourself in the people who live that genre of music.
Is that what studying's like done for you? Have you?
I definitely think that's what studying production has done for me, because when you listen to any recording, each genre of music will have a specific style, of which, I mean, the micro things like where they place the kick in metal, or where they place the kick in pop, and how the kick tone is, you know. So it's like little things like that, but like immersing, I think, more myself in the Durban scene. I mean, because let's say you go to the Winston on a Friday, you could go to Curiosity on a Saturday, and like on Sunday you could go, let's say, to like Bolido and watch a very commercial band up there. Like,
or the
you
Crusaders,
can see Crusade. Yeah, I was thinking of Crusaders, Soul Sundays. That's usually where we are, but that's more for the vibe than anything. And you can see, you know, like on Friday you could see a punk band, on Saturday you could see a neo soul band. You can go to Jazzy Rainbow on the Sunday and see like
even on
heavy
the Thursday,
prog.
like
or any day of the week. In Durban, like, because it's a small place, you know, in Joburg you'd have to travel for 6 hours to go see, you know, a variety of things. Here there are so many different genres existing, and once you start going to all these different gigs and just watching guys you didn't ever know existed, you start to see all these like crazy genres of music that are brewing.
Yeah, Durban's always been like really cool in that regard, and that the music scenes have always crossed over a lot.
Oh, big
like,
time.
You know, we don't have, I mean, I think the hardcore and punk scene were like the only time that like there was like a dedicated music scene that like this was the genre listened to here. But that even just evolved and expanded and like into so many different things. And just over the years, I mean, but even then we had like indie versus hardcore shows. Yeah. So you would have like, what was it? There was that one Maritzburg band, man. Like they were like an indie band playing with like Go-Go Bronco, like on the same bill. Like we would have City Ball Mazes and Go-Go Bronco on the same bill all the time. And
all
it was like fantastic that like, but that's also the thing. Durban's just always had like these rad bands like City Ball Mazes, Go-Go Bronco, just great songwriters in their genres. And like, it's just frustrating that you can't, unless you're doing it the way you've done it, you know, playing 3 gigs a week, you know, doing the cover band stuff, like it's hard to make it as musicians, because if you look at a band like City Ball Mazes, they were big by almost anybody's measure.
Absolutely.
And still couldn't afford to make that their career.
The industry is hard. I mean, you know, the toss-up comes between, am I doing something creative and am I getting paid? And you often have to find ways to do both, and they often don't coincide together. So I think it's about finding that balance between what I say to the guys I work with is, we're going to do 10 shows that might be a little bit, you know, cuck for us to do, but from that money, we're going to do one show that is so amazing for us to do. And I think now even more so than ever, I'm looking at that as like the option.
So you're looking at it a business where you're reinvesting. Like,
you're reinvesting. So you're doing like, let's say 2 months straight of just hard 4 or 5 gigs a week, putting your money aside, and then you take that money and you invest it into a show where you've actually put your creative soul into it. And I mean, I think if you ask any musician, I love playing the cover gigs because the guys I play with, they do different stuff every time we play the songs. So it's still creative. You know what I mean? We're taking songs.
I wouldn't, that's the thing, I wouldn't know because I don't go to those gigs.
I mean, like, those gigs are more catered to
the general
to a specific crowd. Yeah, absolutely. But like, you know, corporates and, you know, background music and restaurants. But every time we play the set, it's a different set, and everyone, you know,
So
some
you
guy
find
will
ways
do
to have
something
fun.
different. Yeah, because I think if you're a creative person, that you don't turn that off. You don't go, whoop, let me just turn the creative tap off today. I'll turn it back on when
I
I'm
mean,
playing
if
my
you're-
stuff.
If you're beaten down enough, like
If
by
you're beaten
life,
down enough, yeah.
you could definitely just go, fuck it, here comes, you know, Sultans of Swing.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're beaten down enough by it, then just go get a job.
Yeah.
Like, you might as well, you know, if you're going to be resigned to that kind of stuff.
But the thing is, I mean, it is your job at that point. Like, you
Yes.
know the scales, you know how to do it, and you're just performing the task.
Absolutely.
You're not really playing anymore.
I'd be lying if I said there were gigs that weren't like that. You know, we play sometimes to crowds that just, I mean, and it's not their fault. We're playing in the back of a restaurant. They want to eat
didn't even know
and
that
talk.
they're going to be
Yeah,
there.
They didn't pay to come watch a band, and you know it does rip your heart out and stomp on it a little bit. But you know, I'd be lying to you if I said there wasn't always at least one person who comes up to you afterwards and says something to you that like drives you forward. They'll
That
just
makes
come
it
and be like,
worthwhile.
you know, that cover that you did of this, I'd never heard anyone do that, or you know, it just really touched me, or you know, that was my father's favorite song and he recently passed. You know, it's little things like that
That
drive
actually
you.
like makes you feel a bit better about the gig and stuff. See,
Yeah.
I'm the exact opposite. Like, I hate like when people come and talk to me after a show and tell me that they liked it. Like,
Oh, really?
like, yeah, like fucking like. I don't need to know that. Like, that's cool. Like, good for you. Like, I'm glad you enjoyed it. But now it's awkward for me because now
What do you say?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, yeah, now we're in a weird situation, man.
It is
Like,
weird. It's something that I don't think you ever get used to. For me now, after coming back and you know my blind audition airing, I've said thank you like
a million
6
times.
million times. I don't even know what to say other than just thank you. They're like, oh man, you went and sang and I loved it and that was cool and now you're doing things. You're like,
Are you
thank
worried
you.
that you're going to get to a point where you can't interact with people as much anymore because, yeah, like you get to a level of fame? Like, because that's the thing with music. Do you think about that? Like, because it's a necessary element of, like, I think about it a lot with comedy of, you know, like how much of it is art and how much of it is trying to get famous so that more people will, you know, process your art.
Absolutely.
So do you want to be famous? Do you think about it? Like, is it a necessary evil or is it something you actually want to do?
I think you know, I'm in two minds about it. Ever since I was young, that's all I've ever really wanted is to be, you know, like one of my idols, you know, like Freddie Mercury or, you know, the greats who.
But the reality of it's so much different. to
The
what you
reality is
see.
very different of it. But I'm a very social person. I love people. I love talking to people. I love meeting people that I didn't know and exchanging stories with them because I feel like as an artist, that's what helps you grow the most.
Most, yeah. You're learning from other people.
So I don't think I would ever be bothered by, you know, having to walk through a spa. This is going to probably sound egotistical and having like 20 people stop me and, you know, ask me about my day and stuff while I'm buying blueberry flapjacks. But there are days where you're tired and you just kind of want to go home and sleep. But, you know, I don't know. As soon as somebody comes and starts talking to me about music, I'm locked in. So
Because that is one of the things like that. It becomes part of the job, like of being a musician, is having to interact with fans, having to interact
Absolutely.
with people that you've never met before, that
Yeah.
you like have no clue, and now you've automatically got to have your game face on because if you're an asshole to them, or you're not even an asshole to them, just awkward or weird or
yeah.
not on your game, you could lose that person as a fan forever.
Yeah. And I think if you break it down to that kind of level, every social interaction is like that.
Yeah.
So like I try not to think about that side of the industry. Most of my thought will go into the music, but we're sitting here and talking because you came up to me after a gig and said something about the music. Like we didn't know each other before then.
No.
I'd seen you out. You'd probably not seen me out, but like
Probably not.
yeah, you know, that was one of those interactions, and now we're sitting having a chat, you know. So I feel like there's always good that can come out of those kind of things.
Okay, I see. Like, it's just the psychology, though, like, of, yeah, like, having to deal with that. That's something that I worry about. Like, I don't know if I'm cut out for, like, even with this podcast, I worry a bit, you know, about, like, how many
Yeah.
people are going to hear it. And, like, I love being more personal, and the whole thing is to, like, be personal and be different to what people get. But then, now there's going to be a bunch of strangers who know so much about me.
Now that's where the main thing comes, I think. The last 2 years, as I started thinking more seriously about, you know, the band and my least favorite word, brand.
Yeah.
I do feel sometimes like, who am I? which part of me is the authentic version of me. I look back at photos of myself before this.
And I mean, with Stone Palace, you guys had Wade Weirdson doing your photos. So you guys had like dope photos all the time, stylized. Like,
oh, absolutely. I mean, Wade, he'll probably shout at me, but Wade is still involved with my brand. He's probably my best friend, but at the same time, he'll phone me up and be like, "What the hell are you wearing?" Or like, "What are you doing, man? That's not aligned with your thing." And like, so as much as I appreciate that, it also does become this like tug at you when you're like,
you're constricted by what am I meant to put forward here?
Exactly. I want to wear this. Why can't I wear this? Because it's me. And so you get to this point where you're like, have I lost sight of the version of me that was most authentic, or am I actually chiseling away to find that version?
Fuck, that's yeah. I guess that is the question.
It's a tough one.
And where are you at, like, with regards to that?
I think like anything, it has days. There's days where I'm absolutely thrilled to have created this persona and this person who I get to put out to the world, because as a business person and an artist, I know that I'm creating the thing that I've always wanted to create. But there are days.
Feel like lying a little bit.
Yeah, there's days and there's things that happen when you're in relationships. I struggled with my last relationship. I think that's a large part of why it ended. When we met, I wasn't a musician at all. We probably met a month before Stone Palace started. And I mean, that gig at Beer House was our first gig.
Oh, wow.
And
you guys were fucking good for your first gig.
Yeah, so the band really skyrocketed in a sense to where it ended up, where we were at Splashy. And in that 2-year period of time, all the things that I thought about as a human, like as a person, changed massively. And I started catering my image and the places I went and the things I said in certain degrees.
You dyed your hair blonde for a bit.
Yeah, so there we go. That's a prime example. The peroxided blonde hair, that was never really a part of me. And, I can see why it was a thing that happened, because all of a sudden, when I went out, I was interacting with a whole new demographic of people. And they were all lovely people.
Interested in you.
A different type of people, a massively different type of people started paying attention to me and paying attention to my music. And from a business point, that was thrilling. But the people who knew me, the people, who were closest to me were like, dude.
Did you get ragged on a lot?
I got ragged on a lot, but with the band, we all rag on each other a lot.
But also, AKA catches heat for him peroxiding his hair all the time, and it's still.
Well, my issue is like everyone makes fun of me for being like Adam Levine, and the blonde hair was kind of an Adam Levine type thing. So I got a lot of hit back from that.
Why do you get compared to Adam Levine?
I think because. I think every artist has that, every singer or every guitarist or every drummer has that one artist that they can imitate.
Yeah, and you can do
the easiest. For me, it's without a doubt Adam Levine. Something about our voices, our tones really play into each other well.
I can definitely see that, but I mean, Maroon 5, not necessarily a band I would want to be like.
Now, their old stuff, Songs About Jane is phenomenally good.
You still think so?
Absolutely.
Why? Like, what
Dude,
about
the instrumentation, the funk elements brought in?
Okay, there you go. That's why you love your funk.
I love funk. I love it's that stereotypical funk guitar, that high twangy, no mid range, upstrummed single chord, weird like jazz chord, just bringing in and holding it down while the bass and the drums just groove. A lot of displacement. It's a very interesting style of music.
Yeah, whereas in my earlier days, I would have assumed funk to be quite a cheesy genre, and then a band like Gonzo Republic came up before you guys.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever saw them.
No.
Oh damn! Did you need to hear Gonzo Republic?
I'm gonna go check that.
Clayton Humans band.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Super, like him, and then Josh. I'm trying to remember his surname. This is so bad that I can't remember it on cast. But sorry, Josh. You're probably not listening anyway, so it's okay. But yeah, that was they were like a really cool funk rock band that changed my idea of what you could actually do within the genre. And you guys also extended that, because you do add a lot of soul and to your vibe. I mean, I think your voice naturally lends itself to that. Which
is I think also what's funny for me about the Adam Levine comment, because as much as that's one of the elements of my voice, there are so many more that I do. But most people will see Sunday Morning and the blonde hair and be like, okay, that's an Adam Levine type singer. Whereas for me, I would probably have more modeled my sound around a more soulful group of guys. So
Well, the thing
we
is,
try to bring the funk in.
You get to do that now, like as Ross Charles.
Yeah,
Like,
and I think that's where I am right now is a brand new slate. You know, The Voice is running until July, I believe. So, you know, I've got the next
hopefully
6
you'll be
months.
there till July.
Hopefully, yeah, that's the goal. I've got the next 6 months to basically reinvent myself and come out of it with a whole new set of music, a whole new image, an entire new direction of saying, hey, this is, you know, I've been doing this for 5 or 6 years now. I'm here. This is me. This is what I've always wanted to do, and now I'm doing it.
Because this is like literally what you've always wanted to do, just be a musician.
My whole life.
Day one. Have you had a job?
I've had a few.
Okay.
Like odd jobs, you know, like I've never had a career, but like I was a courier driver for a year.
Okay.
Yeah, I sold property for Zimbabwe.
Wow.
I've waited. I currently help run a family furniture business. So like I've had my hands in a little bit of everything, but never like a proper 9 to 5, you know.
You've just like band's gonna make it. Like that's just been your philosophy forever.
And that's the only way to go about it. I think if you don't go for it, your band's not gonna make it. It does come down to sucking up those two or 3 years, because the reality is it's gonna be that long.
The thing is, that's a big risk though as well.
It's
to
huge.
take that much time out of your life. Like I think when you're younger, you know, a lot of people in the music scene and stuff, like it's just fun. You know, being in a band is just a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
But like when you guys started the band, like the idea was success, right? Like
Yeah, Stone Palace was a purposeful. It sounds you know a bit cynical. But Stone Palace was a purposeful.
Because you guys
creation.
were all musicians though. Like so, there's 2 different ways like bands get together. Like one is a group of friends who have some instruments, and the other is musicians coming together.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stone Palace, well.
You guys were a group of friends, but you were also musicians.
No. So Cam and I have been playing together for 6 years.
And Cam was also in
Dead
Dead
Trends.
Trends.
Yeah. So Cam and I have been playing together for a long time. I did not know Reese or Buddy. They studied at Copa with Cam. I'd actually left Copa at the time. So I just said to
So
him,
the whole band
dude,
was from the Centre of Performing Arts.
yeah, all of us are from Copa. I was actually in Cape Town. I'd moved to Cape Town to pursue what at the time was the love of my life. And I was waitering there and I was miserable. I absolutely was struggling. And Cam messaged me one day just being like, dude, I miss you. Come home, man. Just come home. Let's do a band. And I swear to God, 4 days later, I was home. I'd left. I packed up all my stuff. I told my landlord I was leaving, and I came home and we started Stone Palace like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, but then like obviously you doing that, you're thinking, we got it. Like, what were you thinking? Like, we've got to make it. Like, this has
there
to
was no
work.
option. I came back, I met them, I sat them down. We were a 5-piece band at first. The gig you saw us at Rivertown, we had another guitarist.
I remember, yeah.
And I sat them all down and I said, this is what we're doing. This is the set list. We have a gig next week. You will learn the songs. We'll go play them. We got to the gig. The one guitarist gave us problems. The next week we're a 4-piece band. And I sat them all down and I said, if you don't want to take this seriously, you can leave right now. I'll just find someone else. And we've all been around since then.
No, that sounds a little dictatorish.
It was very much a dictatorship, and they tease me a lot for it. But, you know, it's a means to an end.
Yeah, I mean, because but also do you think without like that drive, I guess, like, because I don't know them all that well, but they seem a little bit more laid back.
Yeah, they're all chilled guys. You know, they're young. You know,
Yeah.
Cam is about 21, Reese is 20.
I forget like how young people
Yeah,
are.
they're young. They're very young. I'm 27. I'm about 5-6 years older than them.
So it's good for you to be the band dad, essentially.
Yeah, and when I was their age, I also was laid back and chilled because, you know, life is not stressful.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't blame
You're
them
not that
for
stressed
it.
about the rent.
Yeah, well, what rent? You know, you still live at home most of the time. And so I think it needed that drive, and it was never a mean drive. You know, I never yelled at anyone or anything too loud. But you have to have someone steering a wheel. I mean, it's like going to a business and saying, oh, well, yeah, I work for this business, but there's no CEO. There's no boss. There's no superiors. We're all just there, you know, communally trying to make this corporate work. Like, that's not how...
Yeah, it's probably not going to work out.
It's not. Any band needs a structure in order to go forward and to drive.
Well, if you want to be successful, I mean, there's like... But also, people don't understand what goes into being successful in music. Like, even before the cast, like I was saying, like, the one thing that most bands should invest in first is a PR person.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the way you'll get more gigs is more people knowing about you. And the way you can get more people to know about you is having someone emailing everyone in their list.
And I think that's the thing I learned the hardest. You know, and that's one of the driving forces behind what I'm doing now. And,
yeah, I mean,
and
this
trying
is
to go into
the
Voice.
biggest PR you could get, and it's for free. So
Absolutely.
well, it's not free because
it's monetarily free.
Actually, it is costing you though.
If you saw my bank account right now, you would cry.
So that's the thing. I say it's free, like in terms of like, yeah, you didn't have to hire someone and you don't have to pay to like be on the show, and like you're gonna get lots of benefits out of it.
Absolutely.
But you haven't been able to really take gigs and stuff like since when? Yeah, what's the whole process in terms of that?
So basically, I mean, everyone, it's a massive sacrifice. You're putting your life essentially on hold for the duration of the show, and you're taking a massive risk. When I went there for my blind audition, I didn't gig for the period of time that I was there, because you go in before, because obviously you got to get to Joburg.
Yeah.
You can't arrive on the day if you're from Durban. So you go before, you take a week off, you do your blind audition, and then there's a little bit of tape involved that prevents you from gigging immediately afterwards. And I think now they've lifted all of that and we're pretty free. They've actually been very supportive of the artists on the show, which you really want from a big production
and it's
like
also,
that.
I mean, it's good for them, for you guys to be out there performing. It's good for the brand, because you're now, finalist or quarterfinalist.
Yeah, we're brand ambassadors for them and for Mnet, and that does come with certain considerations. You have to start thinking very, very above what you normally would think. It's a much bigger scale.
And also probably have a few less drinks before your show.
Yeah, absolutely. No swearing, no playing this kind of stuff, and that's just what being an adult and a professional is. But I think the real issue came for me was I was out of Durban for too long. And I don't know if it's a Durban-based thing or if it's just how the industry works. I lost most of my residences. So like
because
the gigs
they needed someone else to fill that
they
slot
filled the
in.
gap. Yeah, they filled the gap, and once they fill the gap stays filled. So
they're not going to hire someone and then be like, cool, thanks for being here for 3 weeks now.
I've been struggling since Jan, basically, to slowly rebuild that consistent base that I had built for myself. So, and I'm gonna have to go back repeatedly for the show. So basically, until it's over, it's quite a phase of limbo.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to do consistent work like in terms of performing, but you obviously understand that almost no matter how this goes, it's going to increase like your ability
absolutely.
to earn.
I mean, already my ability to send a message to somebody and say, hey, I'd love to come play a show in Joburg, and to get met with 6 show opportunities, which,
never happened before.
Never happened before.
But now
I've
when
mailed
someone
countless people.
Now when someone Googles Ross Charles, there's this thing with 45,000.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to somebody at a bra last night. It's the most South African thing to say ever.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about, he was a graphic designer, the one guy was an accountant and a lawyer, and we were just talking about how hard it is as a young person to make enough money, to survive currently. And I said to them, I was a few years older than everyone. You are basically building a portfolio until you're 30. In some situations, 35. So this is just one of those things to add to the portfolio.
It's really difficult to do that though. That's the thing is, I mean, I didn't even grow up that privileged. I obviously got privileges, but I grew up in a disadvantaged place. My mom worked 2 jobs. It was really, really hard and stuff. And, it's still a struggle, but I still see how much easier it is for me than I look at other cats who have even less than I had. And I'm like, how the fuck are you, how can, because for me, I've managed to now eventually have a bit of, I'm not quite living the life I want to, but I'm close to it. I've let go of a lot of things. I'm working for brands that I like working for. I'm being paid well for those things. And it did take massive amounts of sacrifice, but I was able to make those sacrifices because I had low rent, because, I had a mom who could help me out, in the months that were terrible.
Oh yeah. So you need that support.
So in building my brand, when building Durban Is Yours, I was working 2 jobs when I was building Durban Is Yours, but at the same time, I always had that safety net. And I think a lot of other people can't ever do something like Durban Is Yours because they can't ever, they don't ever have a safety net. They can't spend that time, trying to build their brand. The same thing, with music and stuff, some people can't even get to gigs. I know this with stand-up comedy, because you're not getting paid enough for the gig. So you can't get there and back. And so that's bad for your brand because now you can't even perform as much.
Even something as small as, not being even getting to the gig, but not being able to present what you'd like to present. So, playing as a 2-piece instead of a 5-piece band, because you can't afford to bring other members, that stuff does devalue your brand a little bit as it goes. And I think what you're saying about a safety net is so important. And it's just one of those very, very, very unfortunate things that we have but yet you still see guys rising through from like out of nowhere. And I think it comes down at the end of the day to just what you're willing to
sacrifice and the drive that you have.
If you got nothing, you know,
you can't lose it. So
yeah, it's unfortunately a truth.
No, I know. And I guess that could also is what makes other people more complacent. And like at the end of the day, talent's not the thing that's going to make it for you in entertainment.
Drive.
Exactly.
It's the want.
There's everyone in entertainment somewhat talented.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and the most talented people aren't the ones that you know.
No, it's the guys who work the hardest. And I think guys with the biggest safety nets work the least because
they don't need to.
What do they need to do? Like, why would they wake up at 6 a.m. and just drive their whole day from there? You know, there's no need to do that. And need and want are, you know, those two things that I think as an artist or a creative, you have to have the most of. You have to wake up and say, I want this thing. I want this thing so bad. And what do I need to do to get that thing? And just put everything aside and do it. You lose friends, you lose girlfriends, you lose boyfriends, you lose partners, you lose everything essentially.
You see, like this sounds romantic to say, but like the reality is pretty hectic though.
No, it's hard, man. There's days where it just beats it out of you.
Like, do you ever like regret it? Do you ever like think like, fuck, I wish I hadn't given up all these things?
Not for a second.
Really?
Not for a second. I traveled to Joburg and stayed with some friends of mine who are both corporate, you know, employees. And, you know, the one guy's bought a house. Like, he's 27. He's got a 2-bedroom flat. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to own property.
Yeah, like...
I don't even own a proper car.
I'm going to need a lot of things to go very well for me to be able to own property.
And I was sitting there on this guy's balcony at, like, 9 o'clock in the morning. And then I realized he wasn't sitting on the balcony with me. He was at work. I was just parking off. And, you know, it's not like that every day. I work most of the day, but... You know, there's certain things that I think as a creative or as an artist in the route that I'm going, you accept that you don't need those things. That's not a need for me.
Yeah, I mean, the lives we get to live are quite extraordinary. Like, like that's the thing for me as well. Like, while the struggles are always the annoying part and like the mundane, like, but like people don't get the mundaneness of being like a creative freelancer and like just the invoicing. Like
invoicing.
You know, how much of your day is like invoices and emails?
But I mean, we're saying that now. Do you know how mundane 9 to 5 jobs are from 9 till 5?
Yeah, I get
we're complaining about invoicing.
Yeah, see, I get to invoice a little bit, write a bit, work on the podcast, play some magic, you know, maybe send off a proposal to someone. Like, yeah, I get to structure my day however I want. And like, that's what I love is that I have different work periods whenever.
No day is the same.
No.
Every day I feel like I'm living. And I think that was the draw for me. And, you know, the sacrifices, as hard as they are, you know, there's things you lose along the wayside. None of them ever equate to me the same amount of joy and happiness as when I'm on a stage or when I'm performing anywhere. Even those very quiet background gigs give me way more joy than I've ever had in any other thing I've ever pursued.
So what is it about performing? Like, can you pin it down? Like, do you have an idea of why it gives you such joy?
I think we spoke about it earlier before the cast started. It's that sense of complete and utter liberation and freedom. When I'm there, I can do whatever I want. You know, there's no guideline. There's no rules that I have to follow while I'm on stage. There's no person I have to be when I'm there. I get up there and I can just be whatever it is I want to be in whatever expressive manner I want to be. It's like the most hedonistic experience you can possibly have.
How conscious are you of what you're projecting when you're on stage? Is it just like all natural, or are you thinking like, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this properly, but like, yeah, like how much are you thinking when you're performing?
So I think, you know, like anything, like how much are you thinking when you drive? Are you paying attention to the clutch when you change gears, or are you just you know, freewheeling down the road? There's some parts of it that you are just doing, that you just let go of, but there's obviously parts that, like for me, I'm not thinking about what I'm doing when I move around on stage as much.
That's just
natural. I think
that's
autopilot. I think when I speak to the crowd, that's also autopilot. I'm constantly thinking about what I'm singing, which is mostly why my eyes are closed. You know, you get a lot of guys who watch people
sing it, or in terms of the lyrics, or like, what do you mean? Like you're thinking about
not lyrics so much. I think for me that's become
but it's just about fun. So are you thinking
the delivery,
about how you're going to deliver it?
Yeah. So like, I'm locking into that mind muscle collection with the voice and trying to see where am I placing this note, where what's coming next? You know, do I think I could hit that note? But like that note's 4 bars from now, you know. So like you're switching off the autopilot to think a little bit ahead of yourself constantly.
Like, and so do you actually, I mean, I don't really know enough about singing, man. Like, so like when you're singing, are you like building up to certain notes? Like even when you're creating like the vocal pattern and stuff, like are you going, cool, we're gonna stay here, build to here, and then hit there? Like,
absolutely.
Is that how the actual
song?
I mean, it's not
you
like
never
a natural,
know.
Well, I was gonna say, like, it's not like a natural thing, like that you just try it out, like, or do you like specifically go, I know exactly what I want to try here?
I think it's the point at which those two things align together. It's completely natural. I don't know what's coming next, but I also am thinking, okay, in this song, I've never really tried to go up there, okay, but I have to feel where I'm at in the song and go, can I get there, or is my voice going to break? And then, so you're kind of thinking, it's like controlled chaos. That's, I think, the best way to explain it. There's definitely a sense of, you know, I have to be thinking and conscious and actively paying attention to what my voice is doing on any specific day. But sometimes I do something and I go, whoa,
that was cool.
Whoa, what was that? Please, may somebody remember that so that I can do that again. And you probably never do. I mean, Cam and I have, like, we write songs at gigs sometimes. So, like, we'll just start writing a song mid-set. And, like, you know, you've got to be thinking. You've got to be consciously trying to, like, write lyrics while you're singing. And you never remember them again. But you're also naturally just letting the moment take you. And I think that's that beauty. You're holding on and you're letting go at the same time.
Yeah, like, that's like in comedy. Like, I've spent a lot of time over the last while. I've hosted a lot of gigs because I wanted to move away from being, you know, just knowing all my jokes. Like, I wanted to get good at just being able to talk on stage and just interact with people and just make your stuff up on the spot.
Yeah, that's the true nature of it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's the true nature of it, but it is one part of the thing that you need to be able to do. I mean, you don't need to, but me personally, I just want to be a more well-rounded comedian. Like,
yeah,
my goal, like, while I understand, like, when I was talking about, like, the fame thing, like, my goal isn't to be famous. And so that could be a problem for me, but, you know, like, becoming a successful comedian or whatever. But so I'm okay with not, like, becoming a successful comedian. Like, I just want to create the comedy I want to create.
I think you can be successful without being famous.
Yes, like, but I'm not successful yet.
Yeah, but I mean,
comedy, and like, there's a level that I'm hoping to get to. That's like mid-tier, just being able to live my life and have my group of fans that like what I do. You know, like, I don't care how, like, if it's 100 people that, like, you know, in each tier city, cool, that's amazing. That would be so cool if I could just go everywhere, like, tell my jokes and have some people enjoy them.
I definitely use that as a reference when I talk to people about, you know, my end goal, because for me, and this is probably going to sound like strange, but Radiohead, right?
Yeah.
Radiohead, and, you know, came out with Creep, and, you know, that became their pop anthem. And what they're doing now, let's say, like, everybody knows Creep. 95% of those people won't know what Radiohead released when they released A Moonshaped Pool. But they created a cult following, just little album by little album, by bit, until they got to a point of complete and utter artistic freedom with support. And I think that's the goal.
Yeah, because their fans listen to them because of what they do.
They're not being governed by what their fans are listening to. They're releasing stuff that people are waking up and going, oh my gosh, I can't wait for the new Radiohead album. I don't know what it's going to be. I'm going to love it because it's theirs.
But at the same time, I mean, people have hated some of the newer Radiohead stuff.
Absolutely.
That were fans, but they still keep listening because...
Yeah, absolutely.
What's one bad album? Like, you know?
But also, like, they slowly chisel away, you know? So, like, let's say they lost 250,000 fans when they released, like, Hail to the Thief. That's 250,000 fans that they now don't have to answer to, you know, in that sense. So, like, what you're saying...
I get you there.
They're mid-tier in the sense of like, they're not Ariana Grande.
I mean, but I would consider Radiohead to be one of the biggest bands of all time.
They are the greatest band of all time.
I wouldn't say greatest, but one of the biggest.
I will fight anyone on this podcast who disagrees.
I think they're a little bit wanky, but that's just me. That's just me.
You see, like, everybody has their own taste.
Exactly.
So, like, they're not playing to you. And that's the ultimate freedom of that artistic creation.
And that is what's beautiful about art. And that's why, like, I would, like, you know, when we get caught up in the fame thing,
Art. That's the word.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd consider, like, what I do to be art. Like, that's why I do stand-up comedy, is because that's my artistic expression. That's the one place that I get to go and say, hey, here's my weird ideas. Like, what do you guys think? You know? Like, it's a really fun thing to do.
Everything else,
everything else I do is my work.
Yeah, and I think where we are now in the industry, there's a very heavy separation between art and a commercial product.
Yeah.
Product. There's art and there's products. And there's guys who are artists and are going and creating stuff that they might not care if it ever becomes, like a number one hit on the radio. And there's guys who are just literally churning out pop song after pop song.
Cam would be the guy who I'd imagine as the artist there, who's just doing whatever he wants for himself. And he's a person who's got, Black Math and all his projects have lots of fans. People love the stuff that Cam does. And 99% of this country, most people have no clue who he is. But he's making stuff that's like people love dearly.
And that's satisfactory to him. And that's what really matters, as an artist, I think. And it's a question that you have to ask yourself on a daily basis. What am I? Am I an artist or am I a product? And how do you tread the line between the both?
I would assume you find yourself to be both, because we have been talking about being a brand. We have been talking about identity and all of that throughout this. So
I'm trying to merge the two as closely as I can, in a way that works for me. I'm looking, I think, a lot at the overseas guys, bands like Parcels and Alan Stone, who are, there's this massive funk, soul.
Oh, yeah, I don't know them at all. So
yeah, like you wouldn't know them. Most of the people wouldn't. If you're listening, go check them out. They're fucking awesome. But I think there's this massive resurgence of creative music, and especially soul, neo soul, funk, jazz is making a massive comeback. I mean, like these artists like Yusuf Days and what's his name? Oh, dude, I've just forgotten his name as I'm saying it. They're playing like jazz, and it's like commercially.
I mean, I would think of
jazz.
The internet.
The internet. I mean, like they play at jazz festivals, but they're known. They're a household name with people who wear Adidas sneakers and like go to Origin on a Saturday still.
Yeah. I mean,
they've tread the line.
They were the best act like I've seen in a long time. I saw them at Afropunk and
I hate you.
Why?
Because you went to Afropunk.
It was okay.
Yeah, I saw your write up.
Yeah, no, like Afropunk was a cool experience. It's just not punk at all. Like there's nothing about it that's in any way punk. I mean, it's branding of like, counterculture, and it is weird. But as a music festival, fantastic. Like if you just compare it to Rockin' the Daisies and like music festivals, fantastic. Great lineup, really dope vibes. Yeah. Everything's fantastic.
The lineup, dude, lineup. So like, I mean, for me, I don't go to festivals. I'm not a very visual human being. I don't really look around me and pay attention to stuff. I just want to listen to stuff. So like I go to a festival, I put a jacket on, I lie on the floor, I close my eyes and I just listen. So like that lineup was, stellar.
Yeah. No, Muzi killed it. He was like probably.
I'm so bummed I haven't seen that guy live yet.
Oh,
I was in Joburg when he played.
Better and better live, like which is like what's dope. I mean,
he's doing a lot in the industry.
Yeah, no.
But you see, there's my further point. There's more guys doing more in the artistic side, and it's because they've started paying attention to the brand side.
But well, I mean, Muzi's had a manager the whole time, for a long time, and him and John are a team. They work together, like. Muzi, does the music and John gets him in the media. Yeah. And I mean, I know of Muzi because of the work John did. Like, 5 years ago, like I interviewed Muzi for Noisy, and since then it's just been, I'm such a big fan, and I keep watching.
You tweet about him a lot.
Because like Afrovision was the best album of last year.
Okay.
Like straight up, in my opinion. Like Like I don't even think South African album. I think just straight up for me it was my favorite album.
Okay.
It was a brilliant piece of music, and so that's also the thing. Like I hype things up. Like people think I'm a hater, and I am, but I'm also a hyper. Like I think you get a bit of an unnecessary hate. I think sometimes you get it when it's due, but like a lot of the time, I think you just say stuff that's straightforward, and people don't really like it when you tell them stuff. No, and I mean I do push buttons a little bit because people are
on
a little
purpose.
bit too
I'm
precious.
sure.
Like
we've had a few like goes at each other on Twitter.
Oh yeah, definitely. But that's also what I love is that like I will disagree with people, and we can still be friends and we can still be cool. But some people do get a little bit too touched.
But it's not personal. I mean, like you could like
taste is not.
Call me out tomorrow and tell me that the new music I'm doing is absolute gutter trash, and I'll be like, okay,
cool. I'm just gonna keep doing it.
Yeah, well, I'd probably argue with you a little bit, but when I see you, I'm not gonna be like, yes, I hate that guy.
How do you actually feel about critics and criticism? Like, do you feel it's a necessary part of music, or like, is it just annoying?
This is a tough one to answer because I think that so much of what they do is kind of just, like
PR.
Well, yeah, some of it. Okay, obviously there's guys who review stuff in a PR manner. You know, their sole thing is to write about articles. I mean, about what new albums are out and this and that. And then you get guys who critique music and like will try and nitpick little things, and like they'll say the weirdest thing, like, you know, like it's not a medium that you can like define with words in that kind of sense. You know, like the ethereal wind-like notion of the guitar line wafting across the evening sky. Yeah, so like to me, what those people are doing are trying to monetize their personal opinion on music, and I think that's brought two things to the industry. One of them is negative, one of them is positive. On the one side, we're letting critics define what becomes pop and what becomes the new wave, because this person will be like, this is the new thing, this is the new thing, this is the new thing, and so many people are quick to hop onto that.
The funny thing is those people are being controlled by PR.
Oh, absolutely, because, you know, at the top of everything, if we go deep enough, everything's controlled by something that has money. Yeah. And like, so I think in some senses, I think that slows down parts of the industry, because we're cutting off guys who are doing something that's a different direction to that, who might be doing something amazing.
Yeah, so you're not part of the zeitgeist at the time, and so you're left out.
So you're out. I mean, like, there's been, throughout the entire history of music, there have been bands that were huge and bands that were exactly like them that just didn't make the cut because they did this one thing differently.
Yeah, or just they weren't. Yeah, they had the wrong conversation with the wrong person.
It comes down to that so much, and I do think critics also offer something good to the industry, because they're constantly assessing music, and when you observe something, it has to progress. So they're putting little pegs in and saying this is a benchmark now, and that creates a point at which you go from. So I think it's a necessary evil.
And so, did you ever grow up reading like music critics? Like I would, like for me personally, like I would like just absorb like music reviews like my whole life. Like that's, you know, Blunt Magazine and SL. Like I would just read that and like find new music because of it. So for me, the reason why I've done it is just because I love showing people new music. I hate actually criticizing music. Like, it's a very weird thing to do, and I've definitely grown and evolved with it. You know, back in the day, I used to be way more about like, slating shit. And these days, it's more just about giving context and describing the vibe and giving you information on the artist and like just like putting you onto something new and different. I'm not going to write about stuff I don't like anymore, because while I do think it's valuable, I also just don't think it's valuable for me.
I think I've possibly read maybe 2 reviews in my whole life.
Really? Just like not of yourself, just in general. Like
well, when someone reviews my music, I'll let you know. But I just like, I listen to the music I listen to. I listen to as much music as I possibly can, and I'm happy with the opinion I've generated of that music. If I like it, I like it.
That's so cool. Like, I can't even imagine what that's like. I'm so influenced by like my influences.
Yeah, and that, you see, that's my point about critiques. It does influence an entire populace of people. If no one wrote about what was cool and what was not cool, what would be cool? You know, whatever everybody just works up. That's actually
I think it will always be controlled at some point.
Yeah,
like,
because
somehow
there's always, you know, there's so many factors involved.
I mean, it's just people make money out of music, and so the way people make money out of music is people knowing about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so getting in the media is just a big part of it.
And that's where it comes from. But for me, it's just, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a visual human being. I don't want to read stuff. I just like to put my headphones on or put some music on and just go with it, and I'll make my own opinion up of it. If I like it, I like it. If I don't like it, I don't like it. I'm not going to read a review and be like, "Ooh, I better like that music because this guy said it was good."
I don't read a review and go, "I better like it because this one said it good." Like, I will know that if I've read someone like Dan Ozzie, he writes for Noisy, and I love his reviews. So I know if he says something's good, I can give it a listen.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
So that's, for me, it's like you have your people who are basically cutting stuff down and giving you...
Yeah, they sift it for you.
Here's your 10 albums for this month that you should listen to.
Yeah.
And I might like 5 of them.
Yeah.
You know, like I might not agree with everything they say, but it's cool to have like people who have similar taste to you showing you new stuff.
Absolutely.
Because like that's the thing for me is, it's like I love finding new music all the time, and I love just constantly expanding what I'm listening to. So I'm always reading what other people are saying. Like, you know, like, and there's important writers, you know, who actually give context to stuff, and that's what I love about Dan, and that's what I love about like Sabelo and Kabela.
Yeah.
He's someone I've interviewed on this podcast, because they give you more context, they give you more of a story, you get new information out of it.
Absolutely.
So it's not just saying like, I didn't like the hi-hats here, they were a little bit too tinny, you know, like that's such a wanky, irrelevant thing to say.
I guess Well, that also depends. Are you a sound engineer? Because if you are, then that's like the basis of your entire life.
Yeah, but if you're a sound engineer, you should not be writing music reviews.
No, definitely not. Like, yeah, no, absolutely.
Because, oh man, that is not good. Okay, yeah, that was...
Glad it wasn't mine.
Yeah, it's A1 Wolf, oddly enough. I don't know why he's calling, but I'll get back to him just now.
Wants to be on the podcast. He's obviously...
He's already been.
Oh, has he? Oh,
yeah.
Never mind.
I can see you don't really support
I listened to the last one, the one you sent me the link to.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I've started... Oh, I need to actually send out the one for this week.
Yeah, if you guys are listening, he will send you a link personally.
On WhatsApp if you want. I did the board... Because that was... Yeah, I once again need more people to know about this shit. And sometimes putting it in people's faces is exactly how to do it. Because I had Kwanda, who was on that podcast, and he sent the link to everyone in his WhatsApp thing and got over 500 listens.
Yeah.
Before that, the most we'd had was 200 listens.
I mean, like, if you're not in people's faces, that people don't pay attention to a lot of artistic stuff, especially on the scale that we're currently doing it, you know.
The thing is, like, we think posting it on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, people will see it and like... But they'll see it, but they won't engage with it. They'll like it. Like, they won't actually click the link to go through to the thing. Like, I'm sure you've probably had... You released a song online, and on Facebook it got 500 likes, but then you check the SoundCloud thing and it's like 50 plays.
Dude, this is the one that's got me the most, right? So, like, recently I've started doing a series of live videos, which I post onto my Instagram. That's a minute, I think, that it lets you post on your actual page. That will get 1,000 views. I'll go onto the YouTube link, 150. Yeah, so people are stoked to watch 30 seconds of a clip and be like, yeah, that was Kif.
But it's also because Facebook puts that in your face immediately because it's on their platform. Same like with Twitter as well. Like, they give credence to stuff on their platform. So if you put a link to something else, you're going to have to get a lot more likes on it for it to be seen, because they're not going to be pushing that.
Yeah.
That's weirdly enough one of the reasons why like I shut down DIY and stuff, was because it wasn't even possible for us to get the same amount of hits we used to get because of the way Facebook algorithms had changed, like, without paying for it, and couldn't afford to pay for it.
Yes,
and
obviously.
So eventually it was, and people don't, unless you put it in their face, go and look for it.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
also I think so much of this connection of having an unlimited supply of information. You know, we are now South African-based musicians living in an industry where it still is Americanized.
Very.
You know what I mean? Because we are so up to date with technology that people don't need to listen to the music that's like locally based. You know, they can get on trend with the massive artists overseas like that. Your Apple Music, you can have, you know, pretty much everyone. It's not like it used to be.
But on the other hand, because you're a South African band, you've now got people from America,
absolutely,
England, Australia, Japan, you know, listening. Because
you have way more access.
Yeah, it's cool for them to listen to you, because you're
absolutely
like this obscure South African band that like they can show all their friends.
Yeah.
So there is that potential, and
there's benefits.
I see a lot of like, it's so weird, but I see a lot of South African artists going to Europe and doing very well. Yeah. Like, so many, like, you just look at the like run of Capetonians and like, but it's been done forever. Like, even Joe Boots and Cats for the last 10 years, you know, like, there's been just this constant flux of going to Europe and, you know, being loved there, and then coming back here and still no one knows who you are.
Well, we have a sound. The South African music industry has a massively distinctive sound.
Well, yeah, we've got the Muscandi influence in almost everything.
That obviously, but like, even the bands that like you would say are derivative of Americanized or, you know, European westernized bands are still unique. But we have, and I will stand by this, something that has always been ahead of the trend in every single decade of music is Afro-influenced music.
Yeah.
Afro jazz, Afro soul, you know, that Afrocentric sound is a sound that cannot be replicated by any other country. It's just something like, if you look in the 70s, like Fela Kuti and Hugh Masekela, and those dudes were miles ahead.
So that's also the thing, is people here grew up on that. So it's
and they did.
So, you know, it's a part taking that forward, essentially.
Yeah, and I mean, I went to a conference. This is going to be a weird thing to say. Like, I went to an MTV bass conference that they came to South Africa a couple of years ago with Snoop.
I've been to most of their things.
Snoop Dogg was one of the guys. You know, you were there, and they were standing there going, "Africa is next. Africa is going to be the next big sound."
Well, and it's also, I mean, you just look at how international artists have just stolen so much from
Hugely,
Africa.
yeah.
Like,
We're on the trend right now.
yeah, it's been, yeah, I mean, not just Africa. So like obviously the Western African sound, like stuff like WizKid and that, and then also like in South Africa, like, you know, Kwaito has just been jacked multiple times. Norm is like, you know,
I'm glad you said it. I mean, I can't get the click properly.
I've been on radio a lot, and
You've had to
I've
learn.
had to practice. Yeah, so
It's hard.
It's important, you know. Like I talk for a living, so I've got to know how to say the words.
I'm not good at that one.
Yeah, I also wrote about Norm like a lot when it was well, not a lot, but like I wrote about Rude Boys and stuff, and I've been a part of the come up a little bit in terms of the media.
Yeah, and that genre of music, I mean, all of those genres are now becoming massive because, like, first of all, it slaps. Yeah. Like, all Afrocentric music is just it's groovy and it hits hard, you know. And like European countries like Germany and Belgium and like the Swedes, they go absolutely wild for that because there's nothing there that could ever replicate the authenticity of that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they can try, like, but that's why, like, they're always more, like, on the trancey side, like, of things. Like,
or they're too, like, precision and, like, down the line, you know, whereas,
there's
like...
not enough feel to it, essentially.
There's not enough feel to it, you know.
Actually, that's probably the biggest difference between, like, like, European music and, like, African music.
There's a massive freedom to it.
Yeah, like, I hate using broad terms like European and African, but, it would be, like... European stuff is a lot more just precision based and like a lot more like whereas here things are tight, but it's also things are free flowing. Like
there's no rules.
Most bands here like can just like jam. Like,
well, because we have, as a result, I think, of being a smaller industry, we haven't been like crushed down and clamped into the box of the rules because
you have to be like this. But
we almost celebrate the stuff that's way more out there because our scene, that's what it incorporates, you know. The bands that are doing more interesting stuff, more undone stuff, get way more recognition, I think, in the international platforms because of that whole idea of it's something that no one there has done.
Yeah, I mean, like BCUC just got booked for Glastonbury.
Yeah, Glastonbury, man. That's the dream. If you meet them and you ask them what else they want to do, if they can tell you something... I'm done because like if I got booked for Glastonbury tomorrow, I'd be like, cool, I'm done. I'm out. I mean,
well, they've done all the big European festivals already, so that's like kind of the last big one. And like they're also like in the middle of the poster. They're not even one of the bands right out of the bottom.
Such a fucking awesome thing to see, like this representation of South African music and guys who are making good music. You know, not just the run of the mill commercial. You know, play to the same crowd. I don't want to mention any names, guys, but I'm pretty sure we all think of a certain. Band or two.
Yeah, people have in their mind the band that they're thinking of.
BCUC are like out there. They're not like, down the middle.
No, there's nothing about BCUC that like is commercial in any way, shape or form. And they've become one of South Africa's most successful bands.
Yeah. I mean, and there's several bands that are doing that right now that are completely wild. And they're just doing this very traditional Afrocentric style of music.
Like Sankar.
That's exactly who I was thinking of.
Yeah, but they're vastly different.
Like, they're absolutely vastly different, and because there is no formula, there's no box.
Exactly.
You can have a 12-minute song, and that's just how it goes. And like, it doesn't even have to have a chorus or a melody line. It can just be a groove. And I think when you take that to a festival like Glastonbury or any festival for that matter, people lose their minds.
I can't even I have to watch the video of them playing Glastonbury.
Oh, they're gonna kill it.
Like with those drums just going and
it takes
Dovey
you somewhere.
just like is like the kind of guy that can get like 40,000 people like wrapped around his fingers.
It's gonna take over. I think it might be a slow takeover, but like I've always been saying, like the next 10 years, the South African and the African music scene in general is definitely going to be on the rise from where it is.
Yeah, we just need to take control of it. We need to make sure that our narratives are. That's why like I enjoyed writing for Noisy, was because I got to contribute to the narrative of South African culture overseas. Like even though you have to cater to them a lot.
Yeah. I think we're still in like the youth phase of the development of music in our country.
Because I mean we've only had the industry as a whole start after apartheid.
I was about to say that.
Like because
it was a very
before that things
controlled.
were very like I mean people were recording and doing stuff, but it was way different and way tougher and just way less of a dream for most people.
I mean, like, I like to bring up Hima Sekela. He's huge,
Worldwide.
but he could have been much bigger than, I mean, like, he's a household name, but he could have been like, you know, I mean, he probably is regarded by a lot as like the Miles Davis of like
South Africa,
South Africa, but he could have been even
he could have
bigger.
just been the Miles Davis.
Exactly. He could have been way bigger.
Like,
and
you know,
we had a lot of artists.
Hughes.
We had hundreds of artists at that time making music like that. And so with, you know, apartheid lifting, we still have only just started to grow. The development of new styles like, you know, trap and the surgence of hip hop. Hip hop is only in its, like, I'd say the 90s of its development. You know what I mean?
South Africa, maybe early 2000s.
Yeah. Like we're peaking through there. You know, it went through its 70s phase where guys were doing very progressive stuff. Then it hit the 80s where it kind of got a little bit more synthy and like dancey. You know, it's growing, and we're not up to date in that sense. I'm doing air quotations, if you can understand. But we're also doing
a lot of different stuff.
We're ahead,
yeah.
But our scene has not got the infrastructure yet to push that worldwide as much as I think it does with the other artists.
Yeah, although we are getting stuff like Questa is like,
no, it's going. So. We're breaking through, and I think in the next 10 years, the funding and the structure behind it, the infrastructure, is going to have grown so much that the South African and the African music scene in general is going to be up there on a level platform.
So you're feeling confident about the future?
Absolutely confident about the future.
Like, not just your future, but
no, about everybody's. You know, like, as much as I want to succeed, for me, there's no point in only one person succeeding. It's more like if we're all succeeding.
Yeah, rising tide floats all boats.
Yeah, well, like, it's like if everybody around you in the scene, like, not just the musicians, let's say the writers and the graphic guys and the photographers, we all feed off each other, you know what I mean? Like, I need other creatives to make what I do better. And when everybody's in a place where we're making enough money that we can do this full time and you know, be profiting, the creativity is going to grow so much, and there'll be opportunities to collaborate with more people. And I think that's what really pushes music to become, you know, great. And I think if you're a musician, that's what you want.
Cross-pollination and just
Absolutely.
being able to work with other people.
I want to wake up every day of the week and be in studio with a different group of people making a different genre of music, even if it's not mine. Even if I'm just the guy doing jazz hands and singing one or two harmonies in the background.
Well, you're actually about to start doing that. So over the next few months, you're going to be singing a lot of different kinds of songs,
Absolutely.
working with a lot of different kinds of people.
Yeah.
What are you thinking now going into, like, so this is going to be the last question.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are you thinking going into these next few weeks to months of your life? Where's your head at?
Oh, that song just popped into my head. Right now, song selection, I think, is definitely going to be, I am waking up every single day.
Can you give us anything there?
Okay, for the guys in Durban who've seen me play, there will be some songs that we have played before.
I've got some ideas, and you might have mentioned one or two of the people.
Yeah, that I'd like to do.
But you're working with them.
I'm working with the team. The team on The Voice is amazing. They are, the musical director and the band are, my mind was blown just from, I mean, I did a Change Is Gonna Come, which is like a proper soul classic, and they just nailed the arrangement in like 30 seconds. I walked onto the stage and they were like just nailing it, and it's such an amazing feeling. So working with that team in the future is like probably the thing I'm looking the most forward to. So definitely going to try and do a couple of the songs that I've been doing because I love doing them.
Yeah, and also because it's good to have, like, I get some things to fall back on a little bit. So, like, to be able to know, like, hey, cool, I might try something different here, but I can always know that, like, the next song I'm going to sing is something that I'm super comfortable with, so I can take the risk here. Yeah,
I think that, you know, comfort is important in the first stages, I think, of the show, because you don't want to be nervous. You don't want to be trying something that's going to backfire on you. I think you've got to keep some consistency. You've obviously got to put everything down on the line from the start to the finish, but you know, you can't just go out there and sing, like, I can't go out there and sing something that no one ever knows.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're still, and I think this applies in every performance of your life, you're catering to the crowd. And it was something that I had to learn slowly, is it's not about you. It's not about me. When I get on stage to play to people, I'm playing to people. It's not about me being like, check, I can do these runs, I can sing this obscure type of music.
Yeah, you see, that's what I'm learning with comedy is, like, I'm even developing different sets now. Like, so I'm just going to have my, you know, club set, my regular, I'm literally at the moment writing jokes that I'm just like, this is stuff that everyone will dig. And I'm writing my one-man show that's going to be other stuff. And I'll test some of the one-man show stuff out in between the other stuff. But at the moment, what I've been doing is just going full me, and it's like, well, this is cool for me. People tonight didn't come to see me. They came to watch comedy.
Yeah.
And I'm the comedian who's now ruining the 10 minutes of their life because I'm busy talking about global warming and drowning polar bears.
Yeah.
So
it's not about you. So like, that's something that I've made peace with and learned to use in a positive way. I think that's why you wake up in the morning as an entertainer, is
to entertain,
is to make other people's days better. And I think that's the beauty of art and creativity, is it's an opportunity for me, one person, to enhance the day of as many people as possible, like in a moment. And you have to put that ego aside for that moment and put that away. So going forward, I think that's my main focus right now, is to just sit there and I wake up every single day and I'll be listening to a new song and I'm like, oh, that would be amazing. I could do this there. I could do this there. People would absolutely love that. And it's that idea of thinking of them first.
Cool. I think that's the perfect way to end this. So thank you very much for your time, Charles. Charles,
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, where's the Charles from, actually?
So,
because it's not your actual surname. I won't give your I won't give your government name away. But
yeah, we got it. We all got to have a stage name. I believe you do as well.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah.
My name's not Bob or Perfect.
Yeah, I at least kept my first name, Ross. Charles was my grandfather. And basically,
cool. Yeah, my Perfect's from my grandmother. So.
Okay, cool. So it was Charles, and his son was Charles Jr. He named his son Dominic, and then my grandfather passed away quite young, about Charles 64. No, my actual grandfather Charles.
Okay, yeah.
He passed on, and when I did start doing my shows, I needed a different name. The name I had, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't catering to the style of music I wanted to play.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just
first
thing.
Your audience would be very different.
Absolutely. Well, my audience would be very angry because I can't sing Afrikaans music.
Cool. Thank you so much for your time, bro.
Thank you so much, Bob. Have a good one, man.